But one of the things I said earlier was that today was about listening and collaboration, and I think we've managed that. I think we have all been listening and collaborating, and certainly from an Arts Council perspective, and it feels like a really good day, and there was lots for us to think about. And an opening comment, I think, from Francois, that this was complex. You distinguished between complicated and complex, and certainly what I think we've heard, is that this is complex. But in the last session, I mean, there were quite a lot of sort of distinctions that we were making between us. I come away, though, overall from this day thinking that there's much more that unites us than divides us, and that there were a number of sort of small issues, important but small issues, that we need to kind of pin down as we work through what might a quality framework, a set of standards, etc., what might they look like. And I was also sort of very encouraged by what you were sort of talking about as the emerging consensus, because that did feel to me like an emerging consensus which was developing over the course of the day. I was struck by, and I think it was Catherine who talked about the importance of the purpose of the work, the purpose of the quality framework, and also that will sort of lead to the types of work that we might be looking at, and that the purpose overall must be to make our practice better, to make the practice that we have with, for, and by children and young people better. And I sort of leave today sort of holding on with that. Interested also in that long debate about process and product. And in the end, you know, I think it's not either or, it's both and. I think we can kind of distinguish between the two, but we have to hold on to it's both and. And that if we end up with a set of frameworks or standards which is about one or the other, we're doomed really, because we will end up sort of not doing the work that we need to do. I heard lots of words in that last session which I think may or may not be really helpful for us as we go forward. Context, technique, ambition, risk, not restricting the creative process, the voice of the children and young people, but not in a token way, that this is about authentic engagement, meaningful engagement, and of course that work is with, for, and by young people. And it felt to me again that there is an emerging sense of the sorts of things that one might expect to see in a framework, and it's somewhere around those sorts of words, and of course others that we'll pick up as we look at precisely the output from these sessions and from the parallel sessions. And also there was a point that came from somewhere around here about using examples, and I think that is going to be important, about having examples of excellence where we can say, not that this is, you know, this is it, but look, what can we learn from this which we would see was really good work, excellent work. And of course, the same person talks about what can we learn from across the rest of Europe and across the world. All of that stuff, I think, really important. We didn't, however, start today with a blank sheet of paper. And Laura, you can stand up now. I wanted Laura to talk to you about sort of the work that got us to today, actually, and the work that we have been embarking on with representatives of organisations who are sitting in here, because I think it's important to know we didn't sort of go away and just sort of come up with a day. This is about collaboration, and it is about engagement with the sector.
Thank you. It was about, I think 18 months ago, that the CASE group presented their evidence. That's the culture and sport evidence that was commissioned by the DCMS, actually. And a few of us, some of us are here today, we're in the Crush Bar, actually, of the Royal Opera House. And it was quite a crushing experience for us, actually, to excuse the pun, because we realised that none of this great, very expensive and extensive survey had included much evidence from the arts and cultural sector. And that was sort of quite a wake-up call for us. So we agreed to get together to see what we might do about that. And at the same time, we were developing our policy for achieving great art for everyone and thinking about our priority 2 around quality. So we met, and I've got my colleagues here today who I'm going to name and shame in a minute, but it's sort of meant to be an interim external reference group, but we've sort of managed to keep going, and today has been very much shaped by them, and I'm very indebted to them because it's far too much for me to even think about all of this on my own, so I am very indebted to them. So it's James from the National Youth Theatre, Emily from Tate, Catherine from Sage, I think Catherine's disappeared, she was there, Jane from Engage, Adam from Lyric, Pat from the Institute of Education, Jackie from the RSC and Alice from the National Youth Theatre, and of course Amy actually from the Arts Council. And I'm really indebted to all of you actually for helping us get this far. And the group has helped us commission the literature review and the research, sort of helping shape that, seeing what we really wanted to pin down and what we were testing. They've helped shape this day, and really importantly, they've shaped those plenary sessions today that have allowed us to sort of share and exchange good practice. So again, thank you for them. And I've always teased them and say I'm going to sack them actually and have a sort of different, more representative group from across the sector. But I think I'm going to keep them for a little bit longer actually. Haven't told them that yet. But I think we need some next steps from today. I think as Althea says, it's been a sort of fascinating, if a little bit sort of like brain-hurting day. But I think it's really good to have started this conversation and to start sort of trying to tease out what these issues are. And I think some of the conversation this afternoon, really thinking that we must try and pin something down, even though we don't know what it is, and we don't want to go around in circles and sort of, we don't want to be here this time next year debating the same things. We want to be able to move on. So what I think we're going to think about, and I want to check this with our external interim reference group in the next few days really, I think importantly we need an internal Arts Council session, a sort of smaller session like this to let everyone know internally what we are doing and what the sector are thinking. I think we need to put a summary of the day online, and we've got films and our tweets and goodness knows what else, so that we can sort of get a view and a feel of what we've discussed today. I think I'd like to propose that we put those propositions for consensus online, and we ask people to engage in debate through our online community, both here, but also for you to encourage others, and we can communicate with other parts of the sector so that they can really start to engage and we can get some debate continued. We've always said we'll have a next step day in February, and I think again quite soon we need to think about the learning from today and from the online community to devise that day. And someone talked about networks actually, and I think that's a really good idea as well, of thinking about communities of interest or communities of network that we might be able to think about. And importantly, the voice of children and young people. I feel absolutely passionately about this, that if we do it properly, if we're going to do it, we've got to do it properly. And the group actually took a decision. At one time we thought, shall we open today up and let young people run the event? And we debated that and thought we're not quite ready ourselves actually, so we thought we needed some debate ourselves. But I'd be really interested in your views on how we might be able to use some young people from all parts of the arts and cultural sector to actually convene, facilitate, run a day for us, as it were, really. Maybe, I don't know, later in the year in the summer, but I'd be very interested in that. But I think, again, with that feeling that we've got to do it with authenticity, I'm always quite surprised that when I visit parts of the country, the same young person pops up, and I think, how did they get here? There must be more young people that we can talk to, as it were. And I think sort of further down the road as well, how are we going to test these principles if we get to that stage? Are we going to be able to test it through work or through some R&D? What's our approach going to be? So that's all I've got to say, but thank you all for your contributions, and particularly to the group.
Thanks for that, Laura. I hope you've picked a couple of things up from today from an Arts Council perspective. One is that we really are serious. We want to work in collaboration with the sector. We've done top-down before. It really, really doesn't work because nobody pays any attention and nobody owns it. So top-down is useless, and we need to sort of build on that emerging consensus. I think also we're quite determined that second priority in that fifth goal, and those of you, I know that you all know what those 5 goals are and what those priorities are, so that one which is about raising the quality of work with children and young people is really important to us. And so having a framework is really important to us. But it has to be, so we are going to do it, but we want to do it in collaboration with the sector, and the point that you just quoted me from this morning, so you were listening, which was great, where I said that I think that the Arts Council is really best placed to facilitate the conversation, but we're not best placed necessarily than to put all the content into the framework. You are. And so we really want that to happen. And also I think the last thing to say, and to repeat, because it could be a fear in the room, and I want everyone to hear that whatever the framework is that we come up with needs to be an enabling framework, not a restrictive framework, right? So there is no kind of hidden agenda here in that respect. I think that's all I wanted to say. It just sort of leaves me to thank all the speakers for today. And I won't go through the list, but you know who you all are. Thank you very much for that. Thank you too for the facilitators of all those parallel sessions. I went to most of those, and they were very good, and so thank you very much for that. Thank you to the venue here, so CBSO, the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, for hosting the conference today. Laura's already talked about the arts organisations who've helped us to get to where we are, so thank you very much to those individuals, most of whom are still in the room. Thank you to Laura and to Amy and your team. And thank you to all of you, because I think you've really worked hard today and grappled with those complex issues, which I think will help us to ensure that we really do raise the standard of work and make it more consistent right across the country in years to come. So thank you very much. Safe journey, everyone. Thank you.